Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Jed Morgan, and the recent PC port for the 2018 Spider-Man game has reignited a lot of the hatred for that game when it comes to the so-called political aspirations of the game. And it's some really heinous stuff, and a lot of it's just weird. There's a lot of weird stuff going on with this PC port for Spider-Man. Now, I love this game. I played it many, many times, and part of it is because it's so accurate to the character of Spider-Man, which is so foreign in general Hollywood these days. I love No Way Home as well, but generally, characters aren't adapted well in Hollywood or video games anymore, and they're usually propagandized for woke virtue signaling purposes. And the fact that this game wasn't, that he still worked with cops, just like this article is saying he shouldn't have, that is something that Spider-Man does and Spider-Man would care about and prioritize. And if you disagree with that, that's fine. That's just who Spider-Man is. It makes sense for his character. And the creatives, they may not like cops, but Spider-Man did, and they put aside their personal feelings to make the story of Spider-Man as accurate as possible, and I have to give them respect for that. Putting aside your personal biases to make the character who they're supposed to be is something that can be highly praised, but is highly rare these days as well. And now there are a lot of articles like this one that I have here from The Gamer, but this one just was the most extreme and most vitriolic towards the game. And it says, the propaganda in Marvel Spider-Man is a symptom of its neoliberal attitude. Yeah, it just went there. Propaganda. Spider-Man calls himself Spider Cop sometimes. He works with cops. Whether or not what you think of cops is irrelevant. They're a valuable resource for a superhero like Spider-Man for finding crimes, for getting the work done. Sometimes villains are too big, there's too big of an army to deal with on his own, and he needs the help of cops. Whether or not he approves of some of the things they do, it's better for the working people that they work together. It's better for the people he saves. Even if Spider-Man in and of himself learns to not like the cops, he's still going to work with them because he can set aside his own personal biases, just like the creators of this game did, to work with these cops because it's best for the people he's saving. He can prioritize the victims in these situations, and that's something that the gamer just can't understand. A lot of people can't understand about this. Spider-Cop was an uncomfortable aspect of Marvel Spider-Man in 2018, but it was even more negative connotations today. Of course, 2018, that was pre the Summer of Love, pre the whole situation that made things even worse, but it wasn't bad then, and it's not bad now, because the pure aspirations of what a cop should be is still something to be strived for and still something to be respected, and there's still countless great cops out there that I've known. Just like there's America as a concept is still a great concept and something to be striving for. You can still have patriotism without liking what the government currently looks like, and that's something that they don't understand. They have to put these two together. They're not mutually inclusive, and it's just a weird way of going about it. So the fact that this game portrays cops well isn't necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. It's just doing what it needs for the story, and it's disassociating the bad cops from the good cops to make a great story. And I don't think that they're even going to mention in this article that the primary cop he works with, the two primary cops he works with, is A, an Asian woman, and B, a black man. Those are the primary cops he works with. But they're still cops, so they don't deserve the diversity points. This article is a slew of hate towards cops. It's a slew of hate of political propaganda, and I just don't think games should be politically divisive to begin with. I don't think they should be politically inclined. It's all about the story, and having cops involved in the story isn't a political leaning like they seem to so believe. It's okay to have cops in a story. It's just insane that they're taking it at this perspective, and this whole PC port situation is just reawakening this hatred for this game, this hatred for cops. Other articles even go into, well, the only good parts of the game were the environmental storylines where you got to do Harry Osborn's little hub things, the little side quests that were really long and didn't really value much. Everyone believes that that stuff is the worst part of the game, but it's the most relevant politically to my political aspirations, so it's the best part of the game. That's what this other article was saying. So this whole thing is, agree with my politics or you're bad. No, it's just like the game. Turn off your own personal biases to enjoy a story when it's not politically infused. If this game were coming at from the perspective these people want it to be, that would be politically infused, beating you over the head. No, it's just trying to be politically neutral and tell a good story. That way, everyone can turn off their biases and enjoy it. There's so many good stories that I love and watch that don't agree with me politically, but they're so well made and so well done that I have to love them irregardless. It's what a mature adult does, and this gamer article is not from the perspective of maturity. It's just, oh, I hate cops, so he's gotta hate cops. It's a disingenuous approach, but that's not even the worst of the situation when it comes to the Spider Cop and the Spider-Man PC port situation. Now, I love modding games. I mod every single game I play on PC. It's so much fun, and I love it. And the modding community is just so weird because the type of mods you see out there, they're random as all hell. And it's not a divisive community. It's not a problematic community as so many people try to paint it to be. Gamers in general aren't really that much of a problematic community, and modders especially so. But apparently a modder for this new PC port added in a mod that would replace all pride flags with American flags, and he got banned for it. Now, it's just one of those funny mods. Now, the question I'd have to ask next is if there was a mod that would replace all American flags with pride flags, would they have a problem? If there was a mod that replaced all American flags with Soviet flags, would they have a problem? No, because it's a double standard, and that's the problem in this situation, is the double standard. I don't personally have a problem with the mod going in either direction, because this is, again, in the privacy of your own home. This isn't an online game. This mod won't affect any other player but the one who's playing it. So if a modder wants to do this, if a player wants to add this mod to their game, that's their prerogative. It doesn't affect anyone else. And people are saying that this is a hate crime. This is not a hate crime. This idea in America where you have to adhere to every belief that I have, or you're a bigot and you're hateful and you're committing a hate crime, is asinine. The concept of I can respect your way of life but not agree with it and not believe it's right is such a foreign concept to them these days. But it's completely within the realm of a mature adult. That seems to be the theme of this video. Mature adults can look at it and be like, hey, you live your life, I live my life, I respect your way of doing it, but I don't have to believe your way of life is right, just like you don't have to believe my way of life is right. That is not an insane concept to understand, but apparently for these people who went insane on Twitter and forced this banning, believing that this is a hate crime and that they can't just let this guy mod for his own personal privacy in the privacy of his own home with his own personal game. It's not that big of a deal, in my opinion, in any sort of direction, even if they made every American flag a pride flag. Not a decision I would make, but I respect their decision to make it for their personal home gaming experiences, and it doesn't bother me. There's very few pride flags in it, so it's not something that I would go out of my way to do, but I don't care if other people do, because it is against certain people's religions to be homosexual. That is their prerogative. As long as they still respect other people's rights to live their lives the way they want to, I don't have any problem with them. As long as they don't try to force their beliefs on anyone else, I don't have a problem with people believing that that's wrong. It's not something that I agree with, but I respect their right to do it, and that's something that is so foreign in today's world, and this just perfectly encapsulates this entitled generation where everyone has to agree with them or it's a hate crime. No, not everyone has to agree with you. It's a sign of immaturity where you have to force everyone to agree with you, and it's incredibly immature. I just can't imagine living my life like that. And just to prove that the modding community and the modding community for this game in specific is not toxic or whatever, there's some beautiful mods out there. Like, you can play the game as Stan Lee, as Spider-Man. I think that is a beautiful thing. I think that is an incredibly beautiful thing, and a mod that I might actually be tempted to do. That's beautiful. That is a good mod. That is not toxic in any way, shape, or form. The community isn't toxic. This mod isn't any more toxic than this is. It's just personal preference. It's not that hard of a concept to understand. And then this one is a guilty pleasure of mine. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but I just think it's hilarious, okay? And that video goes on for a while. There's a lot of great stuff with Wilson Fisk as Spider-Man with those weird faces. That is the type of mod that I'd be tempted to do because it's just stupid and funny as all hell. Modding is a great thing to bring people together, and it's a lot of fun, but at the end of the day, it's for your own personal experience. These people aren't asking for everyone's copy of the game to suddenly be playing as Wilson Fisk. They're not asking that everyone suddenly play as Stan Lee. They're not asking that all pride flags be removed from all games across the world, all copies of the Spider-Man game. It's just for their own personal experiences. Why is that such a hard concept to understand for these people? Twitter is going to freak out, and places like The Gamer are going to freak out when it's things that they don't agree with. It's just this overall concept that these immature people must force the world to adhere to their personal worldview, or it's evil and it's wrong. No, the world and people can live their lives differently than you think is right. Just respect them and their right to do that, and they'll reciprocate if they're good and decent people. It's not that hard. It's one of the simplest things and one of the most basic concepts of being a functioning adult in society. It's just not popular these days. But anyway, that's all I have for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Anon. If you like what I do here and want to see good, compelling stories that Hollywood will no longer give you, check out my book series, Odyssey of a Phoenix, a mythological epic about philosophy, morality, and modern-day mental illness issues. Books 1, Down in Flames, and Book 2, Apocalypse Then, currently on sale. Book 3, Kill the Dark,
coming soon.